Let's talk about one of nature's most iconic designs, the Nautilus shell. We've all seen it. But it turns out this beautiful object is hiding a secret, one that's way deeper than just its perfect spiral. It might just be a universal blueprint that connects all of life to the future of computing.
You know this image, right? It's the perfect logarithmic spiral. It's in every textbook as a classic example of the Fibonacci sequence in nature. But I want you to look closer. What about those brown branching stripes? They don't seem to follow that same neat curve at all. And that, right there, is where our story really begins, because those markings are the key to a second, hidden code.
So here's the thing. The Nautilus isn't built on just one mathematical rule. It's actually built on two. It's an architecture where two totally distinct but complementary systems come together to create one single unified organism.
Okay, so this is the first code in action, the famous Fibonacci sequence. This code provides the physical scaffolding for the shell. It allows it to get bigger and bigger without ever changing its fundamental shape or losing its center of gravity. You can think of it as a perfectly scaling blueprint. It's just a masterpiece of architectural efficiency.
So Fibonacci explains the where, the physical boundaries of the shell, but it doesn't explain the pattern on the shell. To get that, we need to look at a completely different kind of natural pattern, one that's forged by pure energy.
And here is where that second code just clicks into place. On the left, you've got the Nautilus stripes. And on the right, those are Lichtenberg figures. They're these incredible fractal patterns that get created when a high-voltage electrical charge passes through something. You're basically looking at tiny lightning strikes frozen in time. I mean, the resemblance is just uncanny, and it is definitely not a coincidence.
So those stripes, they're not just for decoration. They are a bioelectrical record. They represent the pattern of energy, the flow of charge that was happening as the shell was actually being formed. It's like a signature of the energy that brought the form to life.
This all builds into a really powerful new concept. This intersection of geometry and energy is what's called the principle of dual encoding, and it's the core idea we're going to unpack.
Okay, so here's the official definition. Dual encoding basically suggests that life isn't just a result of random, chaotic chance. Instead, it's this highly optimized system where the physical structure and the energetic patterns are governed by two different mathematical codes that just happen to lock together perfectly.
So it breaks down just like this. You have the Fibonacci sequence, which is all about form. Its job is structural growth, and we see it as that perfect spiral. Then you have the Lichtenberg pattern. That's all about energy. Its job is to record the bioelectrical stuff, and we see it as those branching stripes. Form and energy, two sides of the very same coin.
And I love this. Here's a note from the researcher, jean-claude Perez. From the day he figured this out, it wasn't just some dry calculation. He actually called it an intuition. He just saw how the harmony of Fibonacci and the raw energy of lightning could combine into one beautiful model.
All right, now this is where things get really mind-bending. Because this dual code, it's not just in a seashell. This exact same principle scales all the way down to the very foundation of life itself, our genetic code. This thing you're looking at is the Perez Hourglass. The easiest way to think about it is like a map, one that connects different scales of reality. At the top, in the world of matter, that's the biological world we see. At the bottom, antimatter, that's the pure mathematical foundations. And right there in the middle, at the narrowest point, that's our own genetic code. It's a model that shows how the same fractal laws operate from big nature all the way down to our DNA.
So a cool model is one thing, but what problem does it actually solve? Well, it tackles one of the central mysteries of genetics, how life manages to be so incredibly efficient with information.
Okay, let's just walk through it. The language of our DNA has 64 different words, right? They're called codons. That's our input. But somehow, nature takes all 64 of those possibilities and translates them into just 21 distinct instructions, the 20 amino acids that build every protein in your body, plus one little stop signal.
And that is the big question. How does that compression work? It is an absolutely incredible feat of data management. And for decades, biologists have been trying to figure it out. Was it all just a lucky accident of evolution?
Well, the hourglass model offers a pretty stunning answer. It's not an accident at all. It's math. See, if you look at the bottom of the hourglass, in those mathematical foundations, the model shows that the mathematics behind that Lichtenberg energy pattern provides a natural way to do this compression. It shows how a system with 64 possible inputs just elegantly resolves down to exactly 21 outputs. The compression isn't random. It's a fundamental property of the math itself. Okay, so we've gone from a seashell all the way to our DNA, but the Hourglass model goes one step further. It scales up from biology to the absolute frontier of modern technology.
And here's the leap. Get this. The very same principles of fractal symmetry and information efficiency that nature uses in the Nautilus shell and in our genes could provide the exact blueprint we desperately need to build stable, powerful quantum computers.
See, the number one enemy of quantum computing is noise. Quantum states, qubits, are unbelievably fragile. Any little interference from the outside world can make them lose their information. It's a process called decoherence, and it's kind of like trying to build a sandcastle in the middle of a hurricane.
So, how can this ancient code possibly help? Well, by mimicking nature's strategy. The model suggests we can use this fractal symmetry to create a kind of topological protection. It's basically a mathematical shield that makes the qubits immune to noise. It also points to using Fibonacci-based codes for error correction, and even a whole new kind of memory system that would be incredibly resilient.
So let's step back for a second. What does all of this mean? We've been looking at more than just a few interesting connections here. We've actually been tracing a single underlying blueprint for reality.
And this is the grand unification, right here. The physical geometry of the shell, the genetic compression in our DNA, and the fractal protection we need for quantum computing, they're all connected. They are just different expressions of the same fundamental principles of form and energy.
So the big idea to walk away with is this. Life, and maybe even technology, might not be the result of purely random chance. Instead, they could be the manifestation of these inherent, geometrically necessary laws, a harmonized code that was here long, long before we were.
And that just leaves us with one final, fascinating question. If a simple seashell holds a key that could unlock genetics and quantum computing, what other profound secrets, what other universal blueprints are hiding all around us, just waiting for us to see them?